Hello everyone, my name is Saksham Dikshit and this is my channel Pentest Diaries. Today I'll make another video on the same series of Solidity programming series, and in this I'll try to cover the events, the concept of the events and why we require the events in smart contract that I'll try to cover in this video itself. So we just have to break this video in two parts. One is a theory part and another one is a practical section for it. So we'll go further with the theory part first and then we'll go for the practical section for it. So if I'm talking about the events and what exactly is it and why we require it, I'll just try to make you understand each and everything about it with that practical section, even with the theory part itself. So in Solidity, events are a way to emit information from a smart contract that can be captured by the external application or user interfaces. They are typically used to notify the outside world about the specific state changes within the contract. I'm just reading the contract first and then I'll explain you about it. Now if I'm talking about the external application or user interfaces can listen for these events and react accordingly, providing a way for decentralized application to communicate with the external world. Now I'll make you understand about it, why we required the events in a smart contract itself. So if I'll just ask you about it, like if you want to write something on a blockchain itself, so definitely we have view like we just have to make a state variable, utilize a state variable as a smart contract just to store anything on a blockchain itself. So instead of going further with the state variable itself, it's a bit costly for us. We know it very well. If we are using a state variable, it's a bit costly for us. If we want to deploy something on a blockchain itself and spend less gas itself, then in that case events is a concept for it, by which we can put something on a blockchain itself and later phases if we want that to be get it utilized for any application, decentralized application where we want something to be get it ejected and show some output on the application itself, like on a DApp application wherever we utilize that content, then we are utilizing an events concept. So I'll make it very clear once again. So event is the concept which we are utilizing a smart contract just to insert, or I can say that store our content which you want to populate from our side itself inside of the blockchain itself using the events, and then later phase itself if we want that content to be get it utilized as an output and showcase on any decentralized application itself, that at that time we are using that content which we can see it inside of the log section of it, transaction logs. We can see it inside of the blockchain. We can take the content from the transaction logs itself and display it on our application itself, which we call it as a front end application. They'll be trying to populate the content as per the need itself. Okay, so that's the overall concept about the event itself, why we require it, and using the events it's a bit easy as compared to the state variable itself, as it utilizes less gas as compared to the state variable. Okay, so that's a concept in the theory part itself. Now we'll go to the practical section for it, and how exactly the syntax can be defined. Everything I'll try to cover in that section for it from the practical section point of view. Okay, now let me go to the system now and showcase you how exactly we can make a code for the events. So in the practical section for it, this is the code which I have just made it from my side, and I've taken that as a reference itself for you so that you can able to understand both the concept for it, how exactly the events can be get it used over there itself, event concept, and how exactly it's get it utilized later phase itself. Okay, so there are few keywords which we are using over here itself, and try to get it explain that very clearly to you as I get understand with that. So I'll just start with that. This is a straightforward syntax which we have to make it, and then we have to define the name of the contract, that is the events. Now this is a syntax for the events itself. Okay, so this is you can consider the state variable itself as defined like a state variable itself, just taking consideration as so we just have to give it a keyword as an event, then we have to give the name of the event itself, what exactly the name of the event which we want to get it defined, and then after that we just have to give it a variables over there itself. Okay, so in variables itself I have defined it as address, and the name of the variable is ACC, and now the string is also one of the variable over there itself, data type I can say that, and the last one is an unsigned integer. So there are three data which I just trying to get it defined over here itself, and the name of the parameter also be defined over here itself. So if you required it you can define it, but if you don't require it, that's also good, very good for you. If you want to remove this and just get a defined data type, that's also okay, but it's far better you just have to get it define it very clear so that it's easy for the person to understand when a person is reading your code. So that was the best practice. Now we'll be going further with that and talking about the function itself. So this is the function name, which we call it as a set value. Now inside of that we are passing some value from our side. So that was the reason we are defining unsigned underscore value itself. We are giving an input from our side and making this as a public. Now we're going inside of it, and now this is the key point for it. We have to use the keyword as a emit. So now we are pushing that inside of the blockchain using the emit itself. Okay, so using the emit keyword, we have to push that on our blockchain itself. This is the name of the event. Now the straightforward thing which we have defined it over there itself, the same thing we have to get it defined over here itself. So message.sender is a special function which we are using it over here itself, by which we can get that address of the content deployer itself. So that is the address over here itself. Now the value, whatever the value we are passing from our side, that value will get it stored over here itself. Okay, this is all about the event section. Now if I'm talking about the next contract, I'm just defining two contracts instead of the same code itself. So another contract with the name apps itself, and the name of the event I'm just defining as an app. Over here itself, address indexed underscore from the address we are defining over here itself. Now the another one, address underscore to we get it defined. So there are three data types I'm just get it defined, two as an address and one as a string itself. Now I'll just miss this section. I'll just explain you once I'm done with the whole section for it. So now if I'm talking about the function itself, so this is the name of the function. We'll try to pass two values from our side, one as an address and one after that I'm defining as a value itself. Okay, now if I make it as a public, and then again we are trying to emit that event itself. So that was the reason we have defined the emit over here itself, the name of that event, and then after that we are proceeding further with that, and over here the address of the sender itself, and now whatever the content over there itself, that's also over there itself, and to whom which address we are trying to pass it, that's also the thing we are defining over here itself. Okay, so now everything is sorted out from our side, and now the one thing which is remaining is the indexed one. Why we utilize the index in an event itself? So at the time of using the DApp, like when we are using this content inside of any DApp application itself, at that time, just to filter out some content out of the logs, transaction logs itself, we are using an index. So by index itself, it's a bit easy for us to get it mapped, to get it identify the content which we are looking at from the transaction log. So if you're trying to retrieve 1000 logs in front of us itself, and it's a bit easy for us if we have just get it defined indexing. So at the time of indexing itself, like when we map that as an indexing, get it define any variable as an indexing one, then in that case when we're trying to search something from the transaction logs, it's a bit easy for us to search it very well. Let's take example over here itself. If we define it address indexed from, so whatever the address we are getting over here itself, we simply have to put that address. By that way we can get all the details about it, all the content related to that address itself, if we have defined as an index. If it not, then in that case it's creating a problem for us. We have to go each and every transaction logs itself by the core itself. That's a different way. So it's far better for us to get the logs appropriately. We simply have to use the index so that it's easy to retrieve the content, search the content faster as compared to the normal ways itself. Okay, now I'll be compile this code, and now then after that I'll deploy this code. So I'll just start with first as an event. Let me deploy that. So once we get to deploy that, so over here itself what exactly is happening, we simply have to see that what exactly we are getting in a address account, string content, and that value. Okay, and we are passing only the value over here itself. So I'll simply have to pass one value, that is 22, and set data. We are not getting any output. So just to see that, we simply have to go to the transaction. We just have to go to this section and go to the transaction logs. So over here itself you can see the actual stuff which we are looking for it. So now over here itself you can see this is the event name which we have defined it, and these are the three things which we are getting it as an output. Okay, so this is the address msg.sender. So this is the address from where we have deployed that. So you can check, this is the account holder address from where we have deployed this contract. Now after that, this is a value for the one which we have already defined in our smart contract, and this is a value which is passed by the user itself, that's a 22. So these are the things we can see it over here itself when we are saying this is a transaction logs from where itself we can fetch out and display it then on our DApp application itself. Now if I'm talking about the next section for it, just let me remove this, let me clear this and get down, go to the apps, and now I'll pass this over here itself. As we are passing two values over here itself, address 2 and the string memory content itself. So in that case, what exactly is happening, after passing that itself, we are just getting these three values over here itself. Okay, that's also one of the thing. So let me pass the value. I'll just copy the address, this address, I'll just copy it. Let me try to use that address and hello world. Okay, let me click on new message and this will happen. Now let me go to this transaction logs and I'll see that content now. So over here itself you can see as we have passed it two values. So this is the address where from where we are deploying it. So the sender address from where we are getting that. Now to where we are sending it, that's our address which we have copied over here itself. So this is the address of the second one, it's AB8. So you can see it's AB8 from to where we are transferring it, and this is a content, actual content which we are trying to pass it hello world itself. So that I feel like you can able to understand the whole concept behind it, the event itself. Now there is one more thing which is remaining over here itself, that we call it as an index, which I have explained you about it. But one more thing, like in one single event itself, we can utilize the index only 3 times, not more than that. You can't use index more than 3 times in one index. In one event you can't use index more than 3 times. So that is a limitation. So make sure that whenever you are utilizing it, you can define it a number of variables inside of the events, but just to make it indexed, you have to use an index keyword only 3 times instead of a single event. You can use an index on multiple events, but in a single event, it's a single event 3 indexed. We can utilize a keyword for the variables itself, not more than that. Okay, make sure that you will understand the whole concept behind it. So I'll just make it a small summary once again for you, make you understand about it. So instead of using a state variable itself just to get it to store our value on a blockchain, we are using an event over here itself, as it's consuming less gas. And other than that, I can say like when we are using an event by which we are pushing that content inside of the blockchain, we can store that, and to get that output to an appropriate DApp application, we can use that from a transaction logs. That content will fetch out for the DApp, and then after that, that same content can be get it utilized. Okay, for a number of things itself, we can get that. We have the feature like an index over here itself, by which we can search the content appropriately as per our need itself. And if we just get a defined index, then in that case we can get that content as per wheresoever we have defined the index for that variable. We can get that content out of it appropriately from the transaction logs also, instead of just going for the whole transaction logs. I can say that a bunch of transaction logs we have to go through it and just get that output appropriately. We just have to get a define the index and we can get the output appropriately for it. I think that's the only thing which I just want to get it covered in this video itself. I hope you like this video. I try my best to cover all the concepts which I have learned it in this related to the events itself. And I hope like if you like this video, please subscribe my channel, and if you think like anything is missing in this, please make sure just provide the feedback from your side in the comment section of this video, so that I can try to improve that stuff. And if there is a need, just any other thing which you wanted to be get it covered in this concept, make sure just provide me the feedback, so that I'll just try to make that concept for you and publish it soon for you. Thank you so much once again. Take care. Bye bye.